My entitled, spiteful fiancé tries to make it look like her best friend husband is cheating, all as some kind of weird, complicated revenge scheme for something that was honestly so minimal. And now I'm considering breaking up with her after seeing this level of craziness over something so minimal, and I seriously don't know what to do. So a little over a year ago, my fiancé attended a hiring event for an office job with one of her friends from high school, and she said it would be fun to work together. I also have an office job, but it's in a different company. They both received the job and seemingly enjoyed working together, and they would often go out afterwards if their shifts lined up. A few weeks ago, Sarah applied for a vacancy as a supervisor. Sarah is my fiancé, and Sarah is not her real name, but unfortunately she did not receive it as someone else got it. She said that to her friend Jane, also not her real name, who shared in her disappointment, and they've been friends longer than we've known each other, going all the way back to high school. And that fact in and of itself is honestly why I was so surprised by Sarah's behavior. Sometime after the vacancy had passed, Jane told Sarah that she was accepted for a government job she applied for over a year ago. But when Sarah asked why she didn't tell her, she said she applied for it around the same time that Sarah applied for the office job, among many others. And also that the government openings are sometimes posted for a year and take a lot longer just to get back to you. And Jane didn't think that she would get it, but it offered yearly growth in terms of pay grade steps, and she encouraged Sarah to attend an upcoming direct hiring event. But Sarah was not happy about this because she vented to me about it and had some very choice words to say. When I asked why she felt this way, she said that she was hurt that Jane didn't tell her about this and didn't say that she applied, despite calling it a long shot at the time. But when I reminded Sarah that Jane applied for a lot of jobs while also applying for the office job that they got together, she said that she felt betrayed and that she didn't want to talk about her anymore because she wanted some space for herself. She also said that they told each other everything since high school. I also wanted to add that Jane took her out to dinner to console her after she didn't get the promotion, so I thought I would try and do the same thing by ordering from her favorite restaurant just to try and cheer her up. And at the time, Sarah said she appreciated that. But what she did next, after wanting space from Jane, made me reconsider our relationship altogether because I have never seen this side of her ever in my life. Sarah then began signing Jane up for all these spam sites that she had found in a Google search, and she was using Jane's email to sign her up. She eventually also confessed it to me too. Now, I'll get to that later, but what she did next was way worse. Sarah then tried to frame Jane's husband by going to a site that hired entertainment for parties or corporate gatherings and tried to frame her boyfriend for looking up certain types of dancers, if you know what I mean. She used his email when making an account on the site, and she made inquiries asking for quotes while pretending to be her husband. I found out about it when she asked me to do something on her phone, and the site was open in another tab. I asked her about it, and she didn't hide it at all. She literally told me all of this, claiming that it's because Jane betrayed her, and I was honestly stunned when I heard this. When I asked why she thought it was okay to do that, she said she did similar things to people in high school who she didn't speak to anymore because it simply helped her vent. I told her I was pretty disturbed by how calculated it was, and I told her that she needs to confess to Jane for framing her husband as well as potentially causing problems. She said that I was overreacting and that it helped her stay in an even keel, and I never even knew of this secret hobby, as she put it, until right now. She told me to drop it because she barely talks to Jane anymore, but I'm leaning towards calling her myself and confessing what Sarah did to her and what she was trying to do to her marriage. I also know that will probably make Sarah feel like I betrayed her too, but I'm just too stunned by this secret hobby that she claims that she's done to other people that she doesn't talk to anymore. I asked her again on a different day to confess, but she said no for the second time and refused to see any fault. She also said that our relationship would be done if I took Jane's side because then it would show I'm not on hers. I just want to ask if I should call Jane firsthand before breaking up with Sarah, as I'm seriously considering doing that. This behavior is honestly so disturbing and I seriously don't know what to do. Your girlfriend is actually crazy. She got upset because her friend got another job without her. That is literally all this is about. And her way of fixing that is to try and ruin this lady's marriage. Like, what in the world is happening? That is such a crazy step in the wrong direction. I really just don't even know what to say. But I think your instincts are correct. You plan on breaking up with her and you want to get away from this crazy toxic behavior because this seriously honestly is not normal. And the sooner you get away from that, I really think the sooner you will be better off. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for yelling at my boss because she tried to blame me for her mistake? So I worked and legally am still working for my former trainer. I'm riding horses and I started learning how to ride a horse 7 years ago on one of her horses. Back then, everything was fine. She was a good teacher and everything, but last summer things started to get messed up. For some context, I started working for my boss as a trainer part-time and made quite a lot of money, but a few months ago, things started to go south. Everything I did was wrong and I was a bad trainer. Once, I accepted a job for some day like a month forward, and she didn't give me any details about it until it was hours left before the day I was supposed to be in work. And because I was working when I was needed, I didn't have a set time when I was supposed to be there. So I assumed that she gave that day to a different trainer and just forgot to tell me. So I made plans for that day. And that day in particular was a sunny day. I was in school and I had scheduled a training with my current trainer for tomorrow. And then she texted me in the middle of a lesson that I'm supposed to be at my workplace at the time I had my training scheduled. So I texted her about it, and in my own way, I yelled at her over the text message, and she started blaming it all on me. Later, I called my mom and told her what happened and left things to her, and that was honestly the best thing I could have done. My parents informed me via text messaging, and my mom called me once the things were kind of resolved. My mom called my boss and told her that I can't go to work tomorrow because of my training with a new trainer, and then my boss started to blame it all on me again. But my mom was furious. My mom found out that she was on a vacation and got back that day earlier in the morning and apparently had no time to make a schedule. My mom also told me that when she ended the call, her boss was very surprised because she has never seen her yell like that. That day, I had to cancel my training and go to work. Thankfully, my new trainer had no problem with that, and we had the training next week. Me and my mom reread mine and my boss's agreement about the job, and we found out that the agreement was illegal and that I wasn't supposed to sign it. But we let that, as well as a ton of other things, just slide. Things didn't really end up well, and we didn't break the agreement, so I still legally work for her. But it really begs the question, am I the jerk or is my mom the jerk for yelling at my boss for what she did? I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your boss literally came back and said, okay, time to work. Like she didn't give you any kind of notice or be like, okay, I need you here at this time. Instead, she tried to spring it on you last second, but since you heard nothing, you naturally made other plans. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. If anything, your boss is being the jerk. They're being weird about this and they're trying to blame you for something they didn't do. They even admitted that they had no time to do the schedule, even though they got back from vacation and easily could have planned this before their vacation. So I seriously wouldn't worry about this. You and your mom didn't do anything wrong, and honestly, you should just be happy that your mom is looking out for you and making sure that you don't have any trouble. I feel trapped in my relationship with my boyfriend who gets angry over such small things and really will freak out over just about anything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years now. At the start, it was wonderful. He was in a local band and we met at one of his shows. We hit it off instantly and began dating soon after. As a few months went by, he got into problems with his parents, and his mother kicked him out for being too violent. He was crying and saying none of it was true, and I believed him and took care of him. He went on to live in a friend's house and didn't have a job for months outside of his band. I paid for everything and tried to look out for him since I knew he was struggling, but despite this, he'd get snappy with me and aggressive. Every fight that we'd have, it'd be him shouting at me and calling me names, and I'd just sit there crying, begging him to stop. Then the next day, it'd go back to normal. About a year ago, a new girl joined their band, and he instantly clicked with them and even went to her house the next day after meeting her to help her practice without telling me. She's the exact opposite of me, but also shares all the interests with him that I don't. To this day, their friendship is still a cause of stress, as he actively hides and lies about messages from her to me, which he admitted to as well, stating that he didn't want me to get anxious about it. But even after he promised not to do it anymore, I still notice him not opening her messages when I'm beside him, but when I leave the room, he does it anyways. He actively asked her to hang out and lies to me about who he's making plans with. He had been texting her late at night whilst I'm on the phone to him. It's driving me insane because I know he's lying, but if I bring it up, it gets twisted to me being crazy. Recently, we got into a fight where it ended with him shouting at me. He said to me, "You never think before you do anything. I swear I'm just gonna snap one day." And when he said this, I felt scared, and I sat there crying and saying I'm sorry. And the reason this fight happened in the first place is because I accidentally banged into him when reaching for my phone, and he was in a bad mood. When I brought it up a week later, he tried to convince me he never said that because he would never say anything like that to me, and that there was no chance he said that because he didn't remember. But then later he says he does remember saying it, but it was only a joke. But I know that it fully wasn't. This is where I just feel so trapped. All my friends are through him. We live in a small town, and I do really love him. I've put all my energy into looking after him, and I'm second guessing myself every day because I keep thinking maybe he's right, and maybe I am overthinking or being crazy. I'm just scared, and I have been in this cycle with him for so long, I don't know what's normal anymore. I've become so depressed and drained recently as a result, but I can't bring myself to leave him because every time I end up getting too emotional and changing my mind. I'm just here as a last resort looking for some advice. What should I do? Your boyfriend sounds like an awful boyfriend. Let me make sure I get this straight. He's texting another girl who you have actively said, "Hey, I don't like that and I don't want you texting her." And now, since he knows that you don't like it, he has to do it behind your back and in secret. Also, as a side note for the listener today, when the boyfriend said, "I'm gonna snap," he also said a veiled threat along with that really raises some red flags. This guy seems like an absolute jerk. He seems very unhinged, and I would hate for him to freak out one day and possibly hurt this person. So if I was in your shoes, all things considered, I would absolutely break up with this guy and get out while I can. For better context, the original poster is 18 and the boyfriend is 19 years old. He does not sound like a stable individual, and I think for your own safety, it would probably be better to at least get some kind of distance from him. Also, your partner is literally gaslighting you and making you second guess yourself on everything. One week he's screaming at you saying he's gonna snap, and then the next week he tries to push it off as some kind of joke. But you know what's actually happening. You know how bad it is, and seriously, you do not deserve this. I went through my fiance's phone while he wasn't looking, and I found out he is actively plotting to cheat on me, and now I seriously don't know what to do. So I really need some advice. I have been sick to my stomach after going through my fiance's phone, and I don't know how I should handle this. We've been together for 5 years and engaged for 1 month. We both live with our families and are saving for a home. For a bit of backstory, in 2021, we both decided to enroll in school. I started my doctorate degree, and he went back to complete his bachelor's. Most of my program is online, so I have made a few new friends. However, it is difficult to form relationships without being in the classroom setting. On the other hand, he is on his campus 4 to 5 days a week and made many new friendships. At first, I was happy for him, but then I became a little bit jealous. The next few semesters, he would make his class schedule so he could spend more time on campus and hang out in the study room with his new friends. He created an Instagram so he could keep in touch with them, even though before this, he used to be so against Instagram as a whole. They even invited him to go out drinking and partying with them. He considered going until I told him that I thought it was a little bit weird for a 35-year-old man to be hanging out with 19 to 22-year-olds. He has gone to dinner with them on 2 separate occasions to celebrate one of their birthdays. Fast forward to this weekend, and I was at his house, and I decided to go through his phone while he was sleeping. It was a big mistake, and I regret doing it. I saw things that dropped my heart into my stomach. The first issue is that he is messaging a girl from his school. He mentioned her when he first started school and said that she sort of resembles what our daughter would look like because she is biracial and we are an interracial couple. He always says they're like my kids because he is so much older than them. After looking through his phone, he has messages on Snapchat, Instagram, and regular messages with this girl he considers his daughter. All the messages have a flirtatious tone. The girl has sent messages saying, "I miss you," as well as, "I'm working out. How did my butt look today?" He deflects the questions and says things like, "I miss hanging out with the group as well," or saying something like, "I don't look at your butt because you're like a daughter to me." Although he deflected her advances to turn the conversation into a more flirtatious tone, I feel like it's only a matter of time until it goes a little bit further. The next issue I saw was a conversation between my fiance and his friend that took place in May of 2022. His friend is married, and we even attended his wedding a few years ago. In the messages, they mention how they want to sleep around with a lady of the night, if you know know what I mean, and how his friend wants to turn off the Ring camera at his home and cheat on his wife when she leaves to visit her parents. In those messages, my fiancé said that if he lived alone, he would have brought a lady of the night over to his house and spent some quality time with her, if you know what I mean. And when I saw this, that absolutely broke my heart. During that time, we were very busy with work and had finals for school, so we couldn't see each other for like 5 weeks. He always came off as very understanding of our busy schedules and would always reassure me that although we couldn't be together every day, our love would carry us through. I sobbed for 2 days straight after going through his phone. I always felt like we had a fairy tale love and that we were perfect for each other. Now, I feel like I don't even know who I am dating, and it all has been a lie. I know I shouldn't have snooped through his phone. We've been engaged for less than a month, and I don't know how I should handle this situation. Should I bring this up and admit that I went through his phone? Is ending my engagement too extreme? I can't speak to my family about this, because if I decide to stay, I don't want this to ruin their relationship with him. Every time he says, "I love you, I miss you," or hugs and kisses me, I feel like he is just a big fat liar. Where do I even go from here? What should I do? If I was in your shoes, I would be thinking twice about this marriage. This guy was plotting to cheat on you, and he was sending this actively to his friends. And this is in advance to your wedding, and I am right there with you. There is no reason that your fiancé should be messaging these women. And the second they started to make advances of them asking, "How does my butt look?" that's when all communication should have stopped, and he should have been like, "Hey, this is weird, and this is not what I want. This is going in a direction that violates my future marriage." I know if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely bring this up and be like, "Hey, yeah, I looked through your phone, feel free to be mad, but you were actively trying to cheat on me. Like, are you serious right now?" Because this is a conversation that needs to happen, like right away, in my opinion. Like, yes, snooping is wrong to an extent, but what he is doing is way worse than anything you did. So hopefully things work out, and you're able to find some kind of solution to this situation, because your fiancé is being super sketchy, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. My mom controls the majority of my finances, and despite my asking, she does not let me have any access to it and makes financial decisions for me on my behalf without asking me first, and I seriously don't know what to do. Now, to preface this, I want to say that I have 2 part-time jobs where I make about $700 a month, and I still live at home because I'm a full-time student. So as the title states, my mom controls my saving and spending accounts because my bank accounts are just under her name, while I have access to view the balances. When I get paid, she usually takes money out of my paycheck and puts it into my savings. I don't entirely have a problem with that, but she doesn't tell me when she takes money out of my spending account and puts it into my savings. In addition, I am locked out of my savings account. I can only view the balance. I can't deposit money into my savings, nor can I take any amount out. I always have to ask her for my own money back, and even then, she doesn't always give me that money. As spoiled as this sounds of me, my parents won't even let me pay my own phone bill, despite me having the income to do that because my phone is registered under my mom's name. I will admit I spend my money on some unnecessary things, but I never let my account balance go below $150 before the next payday. Again, I get paid like $300 per day if I'm lucky, and I've put off buying clothes and shoes just because I know at any point my mom could take my money away from me. My parents are constantly pushing me to be responsible with my finances, but I don't think I even have the opportunity to prove responsibility because of how much money is constantly taken out of my reach. I literally just turned 20 years old, and when I deposited $250 in birthday money through an ATM so that I could buy a new pair of shoes and some clothes, I had it taken away and put in my savings on that same day without being told, and that was just my breaking point with this situation. My friends have suggested I create my own bank account since I am an adult, and as much as I would like to do that, I have over $12,000 in savings that only my mom has control of, and I don't even know how I would convince her to give me that money to put in a new bank account. Along with that, my mom works at the same bank that my money is under, and the location she works at is a branch that I would have to visit to speak with a financial advisor. The financial advisors would end up being my mom's coworker and a family friend, and I don't know if personal conflicts or their working relationship with my mom would get in the way of my autonomy over my money, even though I know they can't do that to me legally. If I had even a sliver of control over my finances, I wish that I could just emphasize that I do have a solid plan with what I want to do with my money, and that I wouldn't just blow through all my money and savings, because because I want to move out at some point, even though I live in a nightmare city in terms of affording the cost of living. How should I go about this situation? Should I make my own bank account? And even if I did, what would I do afterwards? What should I do? I would absolutely already be making a bank account for myself. If I was 20 years old and my mom was restricting what money I could and couldn't spend, as well as not allowing me to access my savings, I would be freaking out. There's no way I would allow that for a second. So yes, you absolutely should go into another bank and make another account. And I say another bank. I personally would not go to the one your mom works at. That would be really weird, and yeah, I can see a lot of the roadblocks that would come up, as well as the anxiety that you could possibly feel in this regard. So literally just take your next paycheck and put it into a new bank account. You can probably also set up direct deposit on this new account, so your mom would literally never have any access to it ever again. Because even though you say you have like what, $12,000 in your savings, you technically don't have any money because your mom is not allowing you to access that money. Even just when it comes to managing it yourself, you earned that, she did not. And it sounds like this is an account that you had when you were younger and you are just now basically becoming an adult and trying to maintain your own situation. So hopefully you can get that figured out sooner than later, because that money is yours and you have every right to have access to it. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.